blow the diodes.
We're talking about one photon. I don't feel like people take this topic seriously. It makes me upset. Just wear glasses. Just buy glasses and wear them, guys.
Yeah.
What if the moon is in retrograde and lands on the surface and I won the lottery yesterday and I drank nothing but water for the last 3 weeks? Then can I take off my safety glasses?
Yes.
No.
Oh wait, no, I was way off.
I don't understand people will do anything. They'll do anything.
I'm gonna add to that.
On the safety glasses. I don't understand it.
Since we're on the safety topic, if you're gonna spend,
It's out.
Fuck it. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another source of the Laser Episode Podcast. Today, I'm here with Michael Mullins, who's been hanging out with me so far this week at LightObject's facility here in Sacramento, California, and we've been getting into some trouble. Marco has been way too liberal with what he's been letting us do, and I know that we have even like crazier stuff planned.
Oh yeah, we're not done.
Yeah, so we're in the thick of it right now. We've been shooting vlog footage that we're going to publish like really soon, and then we've got like some beefy episodes coming up after that. Right. So we can talk a little bit about that later. But my co-hosts are here with me as always. We got Matt, we got Boyce, we got Mr. Kyle. What's going on, gentlemen? How are you?
Hello.
what's up?
Another day.
Everybody doing good?
What's
Spring
snowing?
break, baby.
Just before the show, Matt, you were telling Michael about a job you were doing, and I told you to shut your whore mouth because I said save it for the episode, please.
Actually,
exactly
he
what I
very
said.
politely went, "Hey, bud, I appreciate you as a person and as a kind soul. Could you please wait to share that with the group?" And I was like, "You got it, buddy." But then he put on his persona. But anyway, actually, no, he told me to shut my fucking mouth. But anyways, yeah, so this week I had a couple of people reach out to me like before break and so it's spring break, and long story short, I've been able to tell people no this week, which was a really nice feeling. Not just because I like telling people no, but because like I know I'm okay enough to say no and enjoy my family this week. So it's kind of cool. So today, instead of working on lasering a lock for somebody, which, she said, no problem, we can do it next week. I was able to just go have fun and go for a walk. We went on a hike.
Yeah.
So nice.
Other than that, just the usual things I've got lined up for some after bedtime, like when the kids go to bed and stuff. I've got charcuterie boards, some cups. I guess that lock is coming up next week. It's like a brass lock, I think. So it should be fun. Yeah, Miranda's proud of me for establishing boundaries.
Nice.
I'm awesome. So, yep.
Good for you. I still don't know how to do that.
Yeah, it was
Kyle.
weird. It was weird to say no, though.
Yeah.
I was just like, maybe next week.
Yeah.
It still wasn't
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, what about you guys?
Boyce, you got anything rolling in the shop?
No, I'm just. I gotta do a couple of hundred of these business cards this weekend.
Oh shit! Just a couple.
Yeah, just a couple hundred.
It's gonna take me an entire day, but I'll sit here and do them.
Heck yeah, dude! How'd you
You
get that?
think $1 a card is a fair charge?
But two-sided
Are
or
they?
one?
For 100 of them?
Two
Are they
sides.
all
Are they
two
all-
sides?
Are they all the
Yeah.
same or are they different?
All the same?
No. You should be charging more. Dollar side.
I don't know. Where he's in Michigan, man.
Well,
It depends. You know what we always say on here, dude. It depends on your local market, what the market will bear. I think you're close. Maybe $1.50.
I usually do $1 for one side
they
and then $1.50 for two.
It took
Are
me
they
a
the
long time.
.2s?
Oh yeah, that's important too. How thick are they?
Are they the skinny boys or are they the big ones?
Oh, they're the
0.2,
skinny ones.
0.4, 0.8.
The skinny ones.
Yeah,
$1.50.
maybe $1.50. It took me a long time to turn off my California brain
yeah.
because when I learned the business part of this, everything's more expensive in California.
Mm-hmm.
You go somewhere like Michigan, dude, it's like way cheaper. And people in Rochester were like, excuse me? Like, how much did they cost? You know what I mean? And they're like
I
not
can
used
see
to
that.
it. So,
well, for
Was
me,
that for the engraving or was that for the card too?
the card and the engraving, yes.
$1.50.
I
for
would have done it.
100 of them?
No, per card.
Yeah, I'm saying, but what's the total
Quantity wise.
Well, she wants 300 eventually, but she's going to start with just 100 and see how fast they go out. Then she's going to order a couple more 100 after that. But I think I thought $1 was per card to start with is kind of what get the juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that. You always take a little lesser. On that
If you want to increase your prices later, man, just say we can try these at $1 a piece, and then we'll go from there next time. We'll see how that works out based on how much time I spend working on your project.
And I think, like you said, the thicker the card, I could also justify it a little better too. So, you know what, I'll just buy the next card up, which is incremental increase in cost to buy it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's another way of maybe justifying
I just charge cost for the card and then charge $1 per side or $1.50 for 2 sides. So basically they're paying me to do the sit there, wait, flip, adjust, change. So that's it.
Yep. That's kind of a good idea too. Maybe charge them, like make an invoice line item for materials and charge them what you paid for the cards, and then the $1 or $1.50 on top of that. You know, that way your cards aren't even, despite the very small per card cost, are not coming out of the total.
And that's where you just tell them, like, you're paying like a premium, but that's the impact that you're going to have with your customers. Because I can tell you, every time I've given someone a 0.8 millimeter card and it drops on the table with a clunk, they're always like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, that's my business card. And I have to explain to them that this is a chunk o' metal. And they're just like, I swear, like, it's awesome. And like, they literally turn to their friends like, dude, listen to this. Ka-chung, ka-chung. So
I don't know where Jack in the shop is, but he figured like $1. He figured like I mean like physically in the country. But he thinks like $1 a card himself.
He said for one side. For one side.
For one side. Yeah. Also, I just want to point out really quick, Miranda is yelling at me because our title card for Michael and I says The Archivist, which is a leftover from when I was live streaming with Chris last weekend to the Pokemon Archivist channel. If you haven't checked that out and you like Pokemon, go check it out. But Michael and I actually rushed back from shopping for some Pokemon cards today. And,
that's a secret, though. It's a secret.
It's a secret.
Don't tell anybody.
It's not inaccurate, so I'm going to leave it. What about you, Kyle? We haven't talked to you yet. I know that you're not actively
the boys
trading, but you've got something going on. What's up in the Kyle verse right now?
I did a quantity pack of cork coasters for a friend. And I did a video on that. So there will be a video coming out on a refresher, an improvement.
What machine did you do those on?
I did those on the CO2 Galvo.
Nice.
So I did a rotary jig, and then
nice.
I kind of recorded the process of creation, and then also the method of use for light burn with a Galvo, and then the method of use for EasyCAD 2 with a Galvo.
Very cool.
So kind of an all-encompassing thing. Try and help everyone out. I know it's not available for everyone on Lightburn yet, so I know, and I also know there's just a lot of people that don't want to move off EasyCAD 2. So.
Yeah. Jim from Edge of Tech is here, by the way.
Jim!
Shout out to Jim. What's going on, man? He's asking how is LightObject? Busy.
Yeah.
Really busy. We've had like every kind of technical problem so far that you could have while trying to do a big shoot.
Had a couple of
yes.
We've been overcoming them. We nailed some good stuff today. We did an in-depth. I know Jimmy and I had the chance to do the unboxing. Michael and I did an in-depth look at the LightObject chillers today. And we actually poured like scalding hot boiling water into one to see what would happen.
Just to see how much it could chill in the seconds that it passed through it.
Yeah, which was really cool. And then we also looked at
that should be interesting.
So like usually when we're talking about CO2 laser tubes, we're talking about like Resi tubes are pretty standard. Marco's really into SPTs and JKs. Those are two companies that like he really likes. So we broke them out today.
Yeah.
And like played with them.
We
like,
literally got to go into I know you filmed the test chamber last time, but we actually got to control the test chamber.
We controlled.
So they set us up with all the testing equipment and said, all right, you got it? Fire here. Don't put your hand here. See you later.
And it's like left. They left.
And they left and they let us test.
What idiots.
And take readings. So we literally blasted like completely exposed tubes into like pieces of wood today. It was really
I was about to say, out of nowhere, you just see Alex has like a phone book.
Yep.
Okay, we won't go through the phone book. I promise.
Fine.
Just hold
it.
It wasn't just like wood and phone books though. They also had a $3,000 Newport CO2 wattage meter.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were firing into the meter and getting readings.
Yeah, getting readings with like by varying our milliamps that we were like pumping into the tubes. And the SPTs, interesting enough, have built-in red dot beam combiners.
That's cool.
Which is awesome. So you don't have to add a beam combiner if you want one. It's just in the tube. The downside to that is that it does reduce your peak power a little bit when you use that built-in beam combiner. And that was one of the things we were like kind of trying to prove. So it's the whole thing. There's going to be a whole episode on it. We shot tons and tons of footage about it today.
It just reminds me of the time that I came online and you were like, you want to see what I'm looking at on Amazon? And I was like, what's that? And it was like a milliamp thing. And I'm like, I was like, what for? You're like, cuz.
Yeah.
Like, science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Being able to validate stuff is very helpful. Mark Garrett says cork is nice on the UV. Maybe that's something to try.
Cool.
I have not tried that yet.
I have a little. I did some of the bigger.
I have cork
trivets.
Yeah,
it does come out nice.
Hey, Pop, first time catching a live, man. Welcome. That's awesome.
Oh, here you go.
That is awesome.
I always have random shit.
Wayne Brooks asked if we found any secrets at LightObject. I think that's been one of the coolest parts about being there, is that there's nothing. There are no closed doors for things to be behind.
No,
like when we walked in, he was literally like, just like, have fun.
Like, if you can find it, you can use it.
Yeah.
Because we were like, hey, do you have a temperature meter? We want to check the temperature of this water and stuff. He's like, if you can find it anywhere in this building, you're welcome to use it.
Yeah, but we can go in.
So dangerous,
dude. Every door is unlocked. Every cabinet can be opened. Every item, every piece of their stock, every machine. There's nothing where he's like, I really would prefer you not touch that.
No,
he's not. He doesn't care at all, and that's been really cool. There's like no secrets, and it doesn't feel like he's trying to like hide anything or be weird. So that's been one of the best parts about being there.
So you guys are basically like Charlie Bucket in the Wonka factory, like if he didn't care.
Yeah. We're in the Wonka factory.
By the way, here's cork on a UV. If you wanted to see it, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
like really crisp and nice. Oh yeah, and it's like really. There you go. So really nice. It says you attempt to stab the goblin. You rolled a 1. What does it say? You accidentally slip and dance the dance of his people. You are now married. See? Little Dungeons and Dragons stuff there. But it's really nice and like from no matter what angle, pretty slick. And there was no cleanup. It was just like beautiful.
Nice.
Yep.
I got a couple other questions too. Go ahead, boys. What's up?
I was gonna say, I've got to get a fucking UV, man.
Yeah, dude, it's time.
I'm getting one by the Christmas this year. God damn it, I'm getting one. I don't give a shit. I'll get a second job again if I got to. I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go sling some fucking beer again.
And Bob Richardson says he's planning to order from LightObject a Legend he's hoping for.
Oh, well.
And nice. He says, will you guys be looking at any of the CO2s?
Yeah, you could say that.
You could say that.
We're going to be looking at.
We sat down with Joel pretty early on yesterday, and we were like, what in your stock is staying? Like, what's being phased out? What's old? What's new? Like, what's coming? What's like a permanent fixture of your inventory? Because we don't want to waste time on anything that's not going to be like sold for a long time. Yeah. So the big 3 that we're going to be spending a lot of time with are the Ranger, the Falcon, and the Legend.
And the Legend.
Is that right? The Falcon was the middle one.
And the Legend.
So things like the Mirage, the Titan, they're all getting phased out. They're kind of slimming down and really focusing their product line. So we want to kind of reflect that in what we end up trying to cover while we're there. And again, nothing's off the table. So Michael and I went to Big Lots yesterday and hammed out. We hammed out on stuff. We're going to be doing all kinds of testing. We're going to be checking out the tubes, wiring, different electronic components. LightObject makes their own power supplies for their lasers, which is pretty cool.
That's
so
pretty
we'll be getting into that a little bit too. So yes, to long answer to a short question, we will be definitely looking into those.
I was going to add a question to that. So for people who don't know, the Ranger, the Falcon, and the Legend are the big ones. But what was the price on the Rangers? I think $4K, around 4.
The Ranger is right around 4.
And all the way to the top is, what's the Legend looking at for a standard Legend?
I'm pulling it up for you right now.
Just because I know people have asked about that the last 2 episodes, they were kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so for the Legend, which is a 900 by 600 machine, it's around 36 inches by 24 inches. It's basically twice as much, so you're looking at 7.9.
That's a super good price.
That's cheaper than the Mirror 9.
And then for the Legend, which is a 1200 by 900 system, I cannot stress how big that is.
That's huge.
That's 3 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah, it's basically like a flat
size
machine. You're looking at 9.2 to get into
that's
one of
still
those.
So
and dude,
good. That's a great budget. Look out.
I tried to explain this to Michael, and I think you get it now because you were there.
Oh yeah,
these pictures on their website don't do these machines any justice at all.
No,
they're so pretty.
They're really nice.
They're really nice.
It's really cool for me to be out here because I've been really wanting to get behind just something for my subscribers and people that are asking me all the time. But I feel like now that I'm actually touching it and I've got my head crawled up these machines like rear ends, I feel a lot better about what I'm recommending. So that was one of my primary goals of coming out here, is to really get a close hands-on look at these machines.
The price is pretty damn nice, though.
I saw the price.
Talk about getting intimate.
Pineapple.
We were intimate with those chillers today, huh?
It was a slippery and wet ordeal. I will say that much.
Pineapple.
I saw the question about the life expectancy for the SPT tubes. I read that. I don't have an answer. It's not on their website, but that's something I'll ask Marco tomorrow while we're shooting that segment, and I'll make sure that we include that in the final episode for you.
Laser proctology. I like that one.
That's Mark.
Start the exhaust.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Here we go. I got one from Willie.
Yep.
Willie asks, so does LightObject also use FMCO2 or just the glass tube? I think we kind of talked about that.
Yeah, I've not seen any RF style frequency modulation tubes from them, but I know that Marco thinks that that's very interesting tech. I just don't think that Marco's very picky, man. Marco,
he is.
He likes things perfect and just the way that he wants them to be.
Right.
And he's not the guy that's just going to buy an RF tube and slap it in his machine.
No, he'd rather focus on, it seems to me, the things that he has available to him and making those the best that he can deliver.
Yeah. And I'm sure if he found an RF tube or a company that sells an RF tube that he really, really likes, he would be interested in putting them into the machines
for a very specific reason.
Right. And I don't think that he's found one that meets his incredibly high standards.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a great question. I'd love to ask him about that.
I got
Marco's
two things.
Pretty value focused too. So if it's not meeting his standards for being of value to the end user too, he's not going to include it just because.
Yeah, RF tubes are expensive.
Yeah.
Two things for you real quick.
They are.
So Bob Richardson made a good point. Going from the Falcon to the Legend costs you less than $1,000 for 100 watts, which is a good catch. So that's a really reasonable deal to jump up the notch. But this is a question more for Michael or a comment for Michael, and I'd love to see you research this while you're out there.
Yeah.
Bob said, only option I wish they offered was a built-in cam, so I don't have to mess with adding one. And I know you've got thoughts on that. Maybe you could talk to him, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I didn't see any like ready to go cams in any of these units, but they can be added. In fact, I saw a unit that they were already setting up with the Lightburn camera. Like, we literally opened the door of one of the units and they had the test grid in there.
Yeah.
So that tells me right away they've been messing around with adding the camera, if you want, to any of those systems. And as far as the camera goes, like, it's going to help you. Cameras are going to help you out in two ways, in my opinion. I do have an opinion on this.
Oh yeah.
If you need to register something, with the camera on a single object placed in the middle of the bed, it can really be helpful if your camera is set up properly. It can also really be helpful if you have a bunch of scrap material where you want to just get every little piece out of it, and you want to throw that piece that already has cuts left over from other jobs, and you want to cut more material out. It can be very fast for grabbing that extra material. But as far as like registering like 100 business cards on a bed and getting your graphic to line up on all those 100 business cards because of the fisheye, you're never going to do. That's not what the camera's for. It's not going to register properly.
Yeah. And I would also want to mention again, that trace function, dude, that I was explaining.
The trace function.
So useful.
That's very helpful.
When you use Lightburn cameras specifically, you can trace the outline of objects that it sees within the bed, and it's just like incredibly helpful. I did not see or hear anything from the staff so far about shipping anything ready-made. Marco is full of surprises, but that's not one of the experiments that I really saw running outside of that test grid.
No,
I think, and that was a Lightburn test grid.
It was
like
a
very
Lightburn
specifically.
Test grid.
So I'm sure they're checking for like Lightburn camera compatibility, but as far as ready to go, like shipping them, I doubt it's on the radar. Maybe I'll ask Marco if he plans on shipping them with Lightburn cameras at some point. That may be a thing, but
there's a reason that grid was in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So that is definitely a point where we'll have to have like a conversation about that.
Yeah. Good call, Bob. All right, what do we got next?
Robert Hodge says, question for anyone looking for a frequency chart that explains what frequency is expected to do what on objects. I'm sure it's subjective based on wattage and material. I mean, in general, right? The higher the frequency, the lower the pulse power in general. So I think it's less about how the different materials are going to react with different frequencies and more like what you're trying to accomplish with the beam. If you're trying to ablate with your beam, you would typically want to use a lower frequency so that you get those larger pulses and you're dealing more damage, if you will. Whereas if you're trying to simply mark a material, or anneal, right, or Z marks and things like that, you would want to use a higher frequency so you're heating the material without necessarily like engraving or ablating it. That's the general rule of thumb.
Yeah, like lower frequency jackhammer, higher frequency surgical blade.
Yeah. So you could expand on that with a chart, like a list of materials.
Yeah, that would actually be cool.
What does 25, 50, 100, and 150 do? And then you have a list of materials and how the frequency affects that. But you're also it's the triangle. It's not just the frequency. It's the speed and the power as well. And then your chart gets very big, very quickly.
Very complicated.
And kind of turns into a settings list at that point.
I was about to
I'm
say,
not against it, but it's, I think understanding the theory of what's happening with the beam is far more important to know and make decisions based on that knowledge than a specific memorization of any kind of like results on particular materials.
I think the one thing that always sticks with me too is it's literally just a wave, right? So like someone was telling me one time, it's like hitting the surface that you're trying to engrave with the hammer. one time per thing, you're going to be able to strike really hard and knock the shit out of it with the lower frequency. And as you get higher, it's like you're doing this. You're going to be able to ting, 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 but it's not really doing anything except kind of just
working the surface.
Yeah. So if that helps,
another factor, and you guys kind of tickled on it a little bit, is the wattage of the laser, right? So if you pick any series from any maker, right? So we'll say JPT just because they're super familiar to us. A 30 watt laser from JPT is generally going to hit peak power around 25 to 30 frequency. A 50 to 60 watt laser is going to hit peak power around 35 to 40. 100 watt, you're hitting peak power at least at 200 Q pulse at about 75 frequency. So the more, in general, the more wattage you have, the higher the frequency band you can go to still get those big hits out of it. Which is why that's where the benefit is of moving up in the wattage ranges. You can get more work done at high frequency, and that's why it can chew out more at that rate.
Yeah, and this is kind of a laser everything-ism at this point because I say it every week. But if you really want to see this applied and in action, go watch Lasered with me and Kyle, working with a whole host of different materials. In the base episode, it's certainly much more entertainment focused. But if you're on the LMA, we do have the director's cuts where we literally, it's just the raw footage with very little editing of Kyle and I talking about our decision-making process, guessing on what to do next. Kyle will be like, how about we raise the frequency a little? I think that might be a good idea. Oh yeah, that would be good on this material, blah, blah, blah. We get really into it. They're quite long episodes, but you get to watch us think through the problem as we're trying to like produce these great settings for the entertainment value of the actual show. The director's cut's premium. Even if you don't want to sign up for the LMA, the regular show on Lasered, every single time that the camera shows the laser bed and it's running a setting, those settings are down there and you can watch them change as we move from mark to mark to mark. And you can watch those marks evolve as we tweak things like the power, speed, and frequency. And I highly recommend Lasered for people that are interested in learning about that. Underwatched and really helpful for that.
Yeah. Under released episode 2.
But you know, dude, if it got more views, I'd be more motivated to continue editing it. But it doesn't get a lot of eyes, and I'd rather focus on content that people want. So.
Joking aside, because I know you guys kind of did it as like, hey, it was Christmas time and we were messing around. Same thing with the Oreos. When you guys were doing the Oreos, like like it doesn't matter what the substrate is. Yeah, that was gross. I know.
I don't even want to think about the taste.
But, listen, the whole thing that I'm saying is like, remember we were sitting there and I was like, I bet you if you did this with the frequency, and then you guys started playing frequency and speed, and it came out beautiful. Like, so that's just one of those things.
And that's another. The live streams. They're long content, and people want information in short, bite-sized pieces. But I feel like the best way to learn about how the three settings work with one another is to watch the long-form content, because we're very often making mistakes and guessing and predicting where things are going to go and changing things really often. And the results are live right there in front of you. And all the live streams stay up. You can still go watch that Oreo video today. And that's the kind of stuff I think would make a really big difference.
The discussion is very helpful.
Yeah, if you're trying to get that kind of stuff down. Robert Hodge says, based on your comments on the frequency, can you also explain how and if the MOPA applies to your explanations? Awesome on the LMA suggestion, and yes, I'm a member. Yeah, great. So definitely check out the Laser Director Cuts, Robert, because that's a really great benefit the LMA members get that I don't talk about very often. MOPAs. So that's when the hammer explanation starts to break down, and we have to start thinking about things a little differently. So if you had a giant sponge, okay, like a memory foam mattress, and you're trying to soak the mattress, that's your material absorbing energy, okay, and you've got a hose, and the hose is running constantly. That's a continuous wave laser. The hose is just on. It's just running. Now we're going to add frequency into the mix. How often is the hose, right? The less often the hose squirts water, the more it can squirt. Because as the squirts get closer and closer together, you can't get as much water out onto the mattress. Okay? Yeah. Now, your MOPAs unlock pulse width or pulse duration. And that's how long those spritz of water are. So at really high frequencies, your pulse width is limited because you cannot extend the width of that bit of water any longer before the next one comes in behind it, if that makes sense. At low frequencies, your pulse width can be very, very large because it's not firing that often. So you have time for bigger spritz of water when they come. So your pulse width is how much water per pulse, and your frequency is how many pulses, and they affect one another greatly. So again, high frequency, low pulse duration, because you can only fit so much energy, so much water into the spritz before the next spritz comes out of the hose. Low frequency, you can go high or low on the pulse duration or pulse width. So the frequency is low enough that you can do long bits of water coming out of the hose before the next one begins again. And that all affects how wet your mattress gets in each area as you're moving the hose along it. So I like the water analogy for that, because with the hammer, it's how you hit it and then it's like, okay, you've hit it, but with the water, you can really talk about how those pulses are affected by changing the duration and frequency. They're very different things, but they're very intimately tied to one another. That's the best way I found to explain it. I hope that makes
my 5-year-old son would absolutely know what you're talking about with mattresses and what this would be like.
Hammers, scalpels, water hoses, and
jackhammers.
This is all the things.
That's all you might know with fiber lasers.
Yeah.
Before we had the water explanation, I would describe it as you're using the tools that you have in your chest, the speed, the frequency, the power, everything, as ways to manipulate how you're heat treating the metal. Because at the end of the day, if you're blading, you're removing what you're coloring. You're not, you're not leaving behind the color. So that's the way I describe it in a very, very layman's terms way.
Yeah, like you're making it blink again. Yep.
Mark Garrett says you need to rebrand lasered as destroying or as learning what works instead of destroying things. Kyle and I already have a plan for that. It's called Lasered Labs, and we're going to do that at some point this year. We'll have Kyle out, and we're going to reshoot a whole new series, Laser Labs. That's going to entirely revolve around like learning in a laboratory environment. So that should be pretty fun.
Great point by Laura from Laser of Love Creations. Now that we're halfway point, if you haven't smashed the like button yet, give it a smash. We'd appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Laura. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Robert said, thanks. Surprised Matt didn't jump on all the innuendos. All the windows were closed tonight. There were no innuendos for me.
Cubing Cracked said, do you guys have a video on theory? You help explain all of this. I just started and I'm using an 80 watt. A really important theory-based video that everybody should watch and is not underrated is the everything you need to know about Galvo lasers video. It's amazing. It's got a ton of information in it. It compares Galvos to gantries, explains their differences, talks about how different things like lenses and different wattages of power affect the different kind of materials you're able to work with. We talk about fiber, UV, and CO2, special things that make them similar, special things that make them different. It's a long, really, really jam-packed episode with just like a lot of really good information in it. So if you're just starting, I'd probably go hit that video up. I think you'd find it really helpful if you haven't seen it.
I feel like that. Go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead. I was going to say that's precisely the reason why it's actually the first video in all three of the the pertinent Galvo related playlists too, is because there's so much info there that is kind of paramount to really understanding how the laser works.
It's like when you walk into the tool shop and the guy's like, so what do you know about tools? And you're like, I need some. Like, that's like, well, great. But the other one too is the which laser to buy. So that video that Alex just talked about and the what laser to buy in 2021 video is still literally like, because people are always like, I don't know if I need a JPT or a Rakis or I don't. And it's just like that explains so much about the tools. And now that you bought the tool, here's how you use it and how it all works. Those two right there.
I will say, as time goes on, as every day that I wake up, I get a sliver closer to just straight up removing the which laser to buy in 2021 video. That one specifically is starting to show its age knowledge wise. There are some
good one for 2023.
There are some things that are not quite.
They've changed,
or just I didn't know what I was talking about. Because believe it or not,
we learn more every day.
Oh yeah,
learn more every single day. And when I started my channel, I pulled a lot of stuff out of my ass. So you can watch that one. Pinch of salt with it. Galvo Lasers 101. Like everything you need to know about Galvo Lasers. Really the key one. I'm glad you mentioned it, Matt. But it's starting to show its age a little bit. I just want to put that out there.
Looking for the next question here. Well, I like it just because it's so succinct. Because like you said, everything is usually long content. That one's nice and to the point. Like, here's the info you need.
Are there any options for upgrading a CO2 gantry to a Galvo? My CO2 boss laser is so slow. I wouldn't.
It's not so much of an upgrade path as it is a complete rebuild, if that's what you're looking to do. Because they're just two completely different things.
Everything about your machine except for the tube.
That's what I was just going to say. The only thing you could start that project with is the tube.
Yeah, you're just going to build a Galvo. Just buy one. You're just going to build a Galvo laser from scratch and then take your tube and put your tube in it. And even then, I think the tube is going to require some modification. I don't think it can just be slapped into a Galvo setup.
You don't really want to use a glass tube either, anyway.
Most CO2 Galvo lasers are pulsed lasers, and the CO2 glass tube is continuous wave. It's going to be weird, and you're going to run into a lot of issues. And like everybody has said multiple times, you're going to be rebuilding the entire machine. I wouldn't do it. If you really want a CO2 Galvo, I'm looking to purchasing one. We have a lot of great options on the buying guide. It's lasereverything.net/buying guide. Check that out.
One more factor I can throw into that too is cost. You're probably going to spend more on building it than you would on buying it. Is the other realistic factor. Because by the time you finish buying all the parts you would need to upgrade it, you've piecemealed it together. And it's kind of like building a car from scratch rather than just driving down to the dealership and buying one. Yeah. All those replacement parts are going to add up very quickly. You're probably going to end up paying like 30 to 40% more.
Totally. Yeah. And
from like a quality build.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned this a lot and talk about us because Pop's Custom Signs says, I have a CO2. I've had to turn down enough work that needs a fiber laser to convince me there's enough business in my area to justify buying one. Sure. That's usually what happens with these people. We had the fiber first. And then we were like,
it's the opposite.
Oh man, everybody can do organics. We should probably get a CO2 laser.
Yeah.
Never the case with anybody else. It's so weird, dude. Like literally everybody else starts with gantry. Yeah,
with a gantry.
Yep. Super weird. But great. I'm glad that that's the experience you're having. You should absolutely pick up a fiber laser.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. For every gantry laser out there, for every fiber laser out there, there's 100 like CO2 gantries. And people still make a ridiculous amount of money with CO2 gantries. So there's plenty of space left in the Galvo game.
I'd say 80% of my work comes from the CO2 gantry. For sure, man.
Anybody have experience with the Pyburn rotary? I'm thinking about getting one. A bit bummed that it won't work with my Trotec CO2, but I have plans for CO2 Galvo. I have one. I haven't gotten to play with it yet. I'm supposed to be doing a big comparison of all the big name rotaries, and it's just not materialized. Yeah, 3 of them. We have the Mansfield, which is the budget option, the Pyburn, kind of the middle of the road, and then the Rotoboss.
I've never seen a Mansfield.
Hyper high end. It's basic. It's a $300 rotary. It's the least amount of money I would spend on a rotary tool. And feel good about it. Yeah. Very basic. It's got rollers and it's got a pincher and a stepper.
I feel like one of the true tests of a rotary, just because I've worked with a few, is when it's done with the job. If you needed to correct something, does it actually go back to exactly where it was?
The return to zero.
The return to zero is something that I've noticed over the years has been off, even on one of the Epilogue rotaries, which is a really nice rotary. It's really hard to get that and it's become kind of my policy. Like, if I have to go back and go over an area again, like even with those nice rotaries, it's sketchy. It's sketchy.
I have a question about that though, because like when you are, zapping it and it's going to town, that dust gets on the wheels and it loses traction. So I always wonder too if even that little bit of grip.
It's not, because I keep my wheels grippy and tight, but
I do too. I clean the shit out of it.
If you leave the dust on your wheels, if you have some brilliant spray left over that you're not cleaning off, that can cause a major problem and slippage, even on a tiny scale that you might not notice.
Well, and that's where, I use these on mine like every so often, like every 4 or 5 cups, I'll literally take a little alcohol wipe and I just turn from 0 to 600, which is my Y. I just set it on one wheel and let it go, and I just clean it. And then I do the next wheel, the same thing. Because otherwise, I've noticed that you see that, and it's a pain in the ass.
You should do that when you check all those out. See if all of them return to zero, right where it started.
That is a huge selling point.
Bob Richardson mentions I ordered the 60-watt Wisely that Kyle reviewed.
Ooh,
should be here this week. Very excited. That's great. You should love the Wisely. They're really great out over there. Shout out to Alio. Bo Designs says, I'd love to see a dual head machine, CO2 and fiber or UV. We will be looking at one at LightObject. It's called the Explorer, and it's a beast. It has a CO2 laser and a fiber laser, and it's designed for cutting. It's a monster.
It's a monster.
It's a monster, and it's sick.
What's the bed size?
4x4.
4x4.
Yeah.
4x4.
Wow, half sheet. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
Big. It's a big sucker. It would just barely fit in a garage.
Yeah, it's big.
Barely.
It's not the cube.
I could fit it in here.
It's not a cube. It would barely fit.
I could fit it in here.
It's quite big, but we will be playing with that. And the other one,
and what did he say? It was in the 45K range.
The 45K range.
Yeah, something like that.
For
taxes and shipping.
I think that was for a kilowatt.
For a kilowatt.
Yeah.
So I could fit it.
The C500 Explorer, it has it's currently on sale. List price currently is $36,500, and then the kilowatt, the C1000, $42,950.
That's what we were looking at, I think. Yeah.
Yep. And there's another machine too. We'll also be checking out the Saturn II, which is a dual tube system, but in a different way. So it actually uses 250 watt. Were they SPTs or JKs?
I think they were the JKs.
I think they were the 150 watt, 250 watt JK laser tubes combined. They combined the tubes together to give you 300 watts of cutting power, and it will cut metal and organics, thin metals and organics with just CO2.
Yep.
And it's the Saturn, dude. It's another beast. Not the Explorer beastly, but it's a big boy.
It's a big boy.
So
it has the ability, if you want to shut one of the tubes off and just use a lower, so you can get into the lower range for engraving, you can do that.
Yep.
Or you can turn both cannons on and just go full.
Did it have to have oxygen and nitrogen for the metal?
Just oxygen. Just oxygen.
Okay. So like mild steel.
Yes.
Yeah, mild
and
steel.
it will. The other
That's
thing,
cool.
it's got the same bed size as the Legend, so it's
Oh.
nice big bed. And unlike the Titan, which they are phasing out, it has an adjustable Z bed. So you can
that's
actually
awesome.
raise or lower the bed the full length of the body of the machine. And the Saturn is something that he wants us to check out.
He specifically asked us to make sure we get into that.
It's beautiful. It's all beautiful. I can't wait to touch all this stuff.
I have a lawnmower I can get rid of if you need somebody to test it. I'm just saying.
So as far as like dual source machines go, we will be.
That's sick.
Hold on, check this one out. I just saw the Combo Panther. 10 foot by 5 foot, 2,000 watt CO2, 130 watt metal. Fiber.
That's a real big boy.
So that's actually going to be replaced by the Glory Star.
The Glory Star.
The Glory Star, which is a brand spanking new complete fiber laser cutting system that Marco is trying desperately.
They're literally trying to assemble one in the warehouse right now by Friday
for us to use.
Wait, you should be able to cut it and then engrave it in one pass?
It'll be
that the idea?
I don't think it's an engraving
It's a
machine. It's
cutting
mostly
machine.
for cutting.
So,
But the ability to put in wood, put in big sheets of
we did have a conversation today
Right.
about fiber gantries. And
We did.
We didn't have that conversation with Marco, but we were just talking about them existing in general, and we would like to bring it up to Marco and see if that's something that he'd be interested in the future.
Fiber gantry.
Because there would be a lot of benefits to having one of those.
Mhm.
Something more like your red and black Omtech size machine, but with a fiber laser source, which would be incredibly useful. So we'll talk about that later. I see Jack in the shop, only $90,000.
I was
It's
I was going to say,
not bad at all.
I was going to say, think about what a 50 watt fiber from Trotec costs,
right.
and you're getting a more than a kilowatt more of cutting power and probably 4 to 5 times the cutting area of that for the same price.
Yeah.
So just for context.
The other thing too is think of the business that opens up for you.
I'm about to.
Yeah, I figured.
and don't forget, for any of you listening and looking at these glorious machines, they are glorious. There is a hidden cost that comes with them, and you're probably thinking, "Oh, it's the 3-phase power, or it's the 2-phase power." If it's not, it's not. It's actually the oxygen and the nitrogen required for these large machines to get clean cuts. Yes, you can cut all the stainless steel, aluminum, mild steel, all those metals. But if you are not dumping metric tons of gas into your cut as you're doing it, your cuts will all be slagged. You might as well just get a plasma cutter.
I mean, specifically nitrogen.
So the nitrogen is a huge cost of running one of these machines. Oxygen, not so
wasn't
much.
so bad.
No, oxygen wasn't so bad
Oxygen's
because
not so bad.
it's
Way lower pressure.
And it's not necessarily the cost. It is the cost of a tank of oxygen versus nitrogen, which is more expensive, but it's the volume at which the nitrogen needs to be pumped out. It's so much. The pressure was like, I don't know what it was.
I don't know what the pressure was.
It was just
draining
tanks by the minute.
Full-size tanks by the minute.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get into this game,
There's a lot.
know that there is an exponential cost in gas to
Consumables.
Consumables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jeez.
Just be prepared for it.
Be prepared for it if that's something you're seriously looking at. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
That's a variable cost. You can't forecast either. That's
You
the
can't.
problem.
Well, and we talked about that. Oh, good.
Yeah. I was just saying, someone could come in one week and say, I need tons of stainless steel cut. There's nitrogen, right? And then the next week you'd be like, hey, I just need some mild steel cut for some signs, right? That's oxygen. So you just don't know.
The other thing too is the variable cost that you just again don't consider. Like my brother bought the 4855 from Boss right before COVID hit, so that he could cut metal and stuff. And then oxygen. Good luck trying to get a tank oxygen. Good luck. And basically, he just sold it because he might as well have just had another laser like mine. So that's one of those things to consider. Like if you're in the middle of nowhere, how long does it take to get? Is that going to mess up your turnaround time and all that stuff? So, anywho,
I'm sure you guys can agree since you did have a fiber cutter. I'm speaking maybe out of not knowledge here, but I'm sure too that part of the purchase and part of the inherent cost is also learning too, because you need to fund that gas until you know what you're doing. And then at that point,
literally burn to learn.
At that point, you can turn around and start charging that as part of what your customers are paying. But until then, until you know what you're doing and producing a product, that's coming out of your pocket. Yeah.
Shit sandwich.
A lot of people are freaking out about the $90,000 price tag on the fiber cutters.
Pretty cheap.
We're going to play with those and talk about how they work because we want you to know that they're out there and like they exist. We're not like trying to sell you on one. Nope. We're not trying to make you buy one. If I can't buy it with my bank account, I'm certainly not going to look at somebody else and tell them they need to buy it. We just want to like educate people, just like we always do. That's why our channels are here. We want to educate people, show you this technology exists, and maybe if we're lucky and smart enough to handle translating it, teach you a little bit about how they work.
Absolutely.
By the way, guys, new link on the Laser Master Academy this week for loan originators. All right. It's just really cool because how often do you get to play with these things, man? It's so cool.
Yeah. That's really what it's about. We just want to go play with them.
The toys.
Take some close-ups of them working. There's some really cool features, but really we're going to be focusing on the CO2 stuff.
Yeah. We do widgets as I run a laser that uses nitrogen and the cost hurts. So they know for sure.
Oh, man.
Edge of Tech is asking, what's a good enclosure for a 30-watt MOPA, or should I build a custom one? Building's going to be way cheaper. I know it's something, Kyle, you've been working on. Do you have any thoughts on that? Have you seen any enclosures that you like? And what has the process been like so far for your build?
So I have not built one yet, but I do kind of have the start to a parts list, at least for the most part. So cost of building one versus buying one is going to highly depend on what you're using for kind of the majority of your siding material, like what you're using for walls and framing. And then the other factor is, are you going to have a window? So if you're going to have a window, it's got to be specific. Well, if you want it to be a functional window in terms of safety, it needs to be specifically rated for the wavelength of the laser. So, for example, if you're using acrylic or just sheet glass, that is not going to provide an ample amount of protection for you. And there's a high chance that if there's a reflection through that, you're probably going to go blind, or at least get some type of damage to your retina in some way. If you get rated glass for it, it's going to have an OD rating for that wavelength. And usually you're talking anywhere from $90 to $150 by cubic, or not cubic, by square foot. Not even a sheet, a square foot. It's expensive.
Just on that note, because people are going to want to know where to get it. Laser Everything, as an organization, we still highly recommend No IR Laser, which is a company we have zero affiliation with, and they continue to get my recommendation. I don't get paid a dime. They just make the best shit, and you can buy their filters by the square foot. So you can search your wavelength.
That's right.
And you can say, I need 3 square feet of this, and they'll ship it to you, and you can cut it out or route it out or whatever.
You can even call them on the phone and just say, this is what I have. This is my laser. What do I need?
Yeah.
Like you can use the sliders on the side and figure it out yourself. But if it's confusing, just call them. They'll answer the phone.
Yeah. And you can buy the material you need to cut your own window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They'll even, so if you want just a nominal value that fits into a cutout that you're using, they'll even cut it to like your exact dimensions if you give it to them. So they're very helpful.
A lot of people are mentioning the Cloud Ray enclosure in chat. If I got a Cloud Ray enclosure, I would probably replace the windows on it. It's an opinion. It's like I'm being speculative, but I would personally, that is what I would do if I bought a Cloud Ray. I wouldn't trust those windows if it were me.
I know. I talked with Pascal about those, and he told me that the ones he has for his work for fiber, but not for UV, because I was looking for one for UV, because UV is so much brightness everywhere. I actually was considering buying one. So I don't remember the price, but I know it's more than that, I think. So yeah, I agree with that whole, like, is it really safe? Because I trust the stuff I get from him pretty good, but just saying. Yeah. So it's enough to think about.
The other, if you are going to go
let me be just incredibly clear. I'm not saying that they don't work. I'm just saying I would replace my windows. I have to draw that line because you could have bought, because I see people in chat going, dang now. And it's like, you could have bought a perfectly good enclosure. I don't know. I'm just saying if I ordered it and that's what I paid, I would probably replace it. That's all.
Knowing the price the other places charge, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So don't, again, pinch of salt on that. Unless at the end of the day, you're not really going to know unless you get a laser power meter.
Yeah, or you at the very least, you can say, hey, is this just green tinted acrylic? Or what are you using in this? Can you tell me what is the material? And if they come up with a response that's kind of like wishy-washy, I maybe think about it, but they come up with a legitimate response. This is the material we use. This is why we use it. This is what it's rated for. I don't know. Ask him the question. Ask him the hard questions.
I wish that Chris was here because Chris does this for a living. He literally does. He creates laser filters.
Yep.
There's a whole process where like they have to go in these big like vacuum chambers and get coated with like a really precise like chemical process.
Everything from complete lockout to letting some through just a little bit.
It's like a really complicated, involved process that he's involved in. And he does this for like the military industrial complex, but it's the same thing. You're blocking lasers, and so it's the people that are on the acrylic is fine train. Like, I don't know, enjoy your vision. But
it's a little dicey.
It's dicey, man. Did you get one pair of eyes? So just I would pay any amount if I was blind. If I woke up blind tomorrow, I would pay a
good money,
shit ton of money to bring my vision back.
Oh yeah.
So consider that, now, going into the future. I don't know. I'm rambling. Somebody else talk about something.
The only other thing I would mention since we were talking about doing DIY, if I was going to buy the stuff tonight to build a frame and enclosure tomorrow, I would just buy like 20/20 or 30/30 extruded aluminum, and they already have the grooves in them. Just put some sheet material in there and you have walls. The fittings to connect them are cheap, and you can bolt them together and they're just ready to go. They're easy to cut. So that'd be the way I would go. They're relatively cheap, especially for what you get. And in my case, a normal enclosure isn't really going to work for my Galvo table because I have 3 machines on that table and there's not enough space between them. So to get one that would work for the entire table, it would cost me like thousands. So I would just build one.
I'm very irritated right now because I'm just realizing whoever posted the Laser Everything link to No IR, No IR changed
They did, and their website is
their domain.
Their domain changed. Yeah, I just noticed that too.
That means all of our links on the buying guide are broken, so we need to fix that. Amanda, so just a side note, neither here nor there. Sorry. Never mind. I'm rambling.
He's yelling out, Kyle.
Kyle, where's Kyle?
Let's see. Here's a good question for you to refocus. Get it? Laser joke. All right, fuck me. Okay.
Wait, before that, Bo Designs is saying, how would you go about testing the windows to ensure the OD rating is accurate? Chris has $2 million pieces of acrylic, or $2 million pieces of equipment. Thank you. That can only measure up to OD6. You're not doing it at home, so you have to buy from a trusted manufacturer, someone you're willing to pay, and you're going to put your safety in their hands. That's one of the many reasons why we buy from No IR. Again, neither of us have a professional relationship with them. We don't get paid a dime. We don't get anything from their sales. We don't have any handshake agreements, nothing. We don't mess around with this. It's not worth money to get any kind of affiliate commission from a different competing company. No. This is the shit that you want to protect your eyes. So yeah, you cannot test that at home. Chris can barely test it to a degree that we would think is marginally safe, OD6. And really you're looking for like OD7 plus for infrared and ultraviolet lasers. So I just wanted to shout that out because Bo asked. So
and I was going to say the one good thing about No IR's website, when you look, is all the information that Michael was telling you to ask. They've already got published to all of the testing that they do. And it shows you the dips and the drop-offs. It shows you the materials, obviously without the special secret sauce, because otherwise anybody could make that shit. But all the testing's done, and they've got their seals of approval from the regulatory commissions that oversee that. So for them to be able to post that information, the regulatory commissions have said, yup. So they've seen those reports and concur.
Yep.
So
I see G. Smith is asking glasses or goggles, whatever fits best. Just make sure that it seals well, especially
on the sides,
especially for ultraviolet. UV, particularly dangerous. Even just stray like up off your face underneath. Kyle and I have gotten headaches from the UV just bouncing up in here. So you really need to protect against that as well.
If you have a particularly large head and also wear glasses,
get the goggles.
I got a big old fat head. It's very difficult to get glasses that form fit around your glasses and face. Goggles are going to be a much safer bet if that fits your description.
And didn't you say they had ventilation in them too on them, right?
They do,
which was really nice.
Most of them.
Again, I would probably keep closed for UV. I'm just saying that out loud, but you really don't want any ultraviolet.
Dude, infrared, the UV got me one time and it hurt so bad. Oof.
Infrared light is lower energy than visible light. Okay, so we're talking like fiber lasers, CO2 lasers, and they can damage your eyes. But the ultraviolet light is a higher energy wave than visible light. And when you catch that, it's nasty. It's really bad for you. We know it melts our skin, right? We put on sunblock to block UV from the sun. Right, imagine what it's doing to an organ as sensitive to your eye when concentrated in the form of a laser. It's nasty shit. Be really careful with UV. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention too, let me see. Didn't we do a whole podcast episode on this, guys?
Yes.
Like eyewear, laser safety.
We talked about it when Chris was on.
Yeah, I would definitely go check that out.
We should make a short of that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and mention this one too. So Moss says, do you go blind right away or in time? The answer to that is yes. It's both. It can be a slow burn or it can be a fast burn. It kind of depends on how much of that wavelength is actually being reflected at your eye and how much is being caught before you blink.
When Michael and I went to our training at LMT, the first thing they told us when they handed us our glasses before they even let us in the laser room was a story about a guy who had been using his fiber laser for like 5 years. And then one day he just looked down and he caught the flash at the wrong time.
Blackout.
He said there was an audible pop.
Yep.
When it busted his shit up, dude.
And it was just complete blackout.
Because he just got a direct photon reflection into his eye. The reason we don't cut copper too close to copper or, mark copper too close to copper with our fiber lasers is because one single photon can bounce off of that copper back into the machine and destroy your laser source.
Yep, and go right back down the fiber optic tube, right into the source and blow the diodes.
We're talking about one photon. I don't know. I don't feel like people take this topic seriously.
Copper and silver are the most highly reflective metals.
Yeah. It's kind of like the epitome example of when you stick your finger in the end of a
light socket,
a gun. No, a gun, like in the cartoons, and it blows the barrel. That's like, if it comes back, if that doesn't go the right direction. Yeah.
G Smith is asking if UV is worse than welding flash. Does welding flash go away, or is that permanent?
It can be it can be very painful, and it can be permanent.
It can make blind spots.
There, I think that's two-sided too, because the flash from welding can also just be from brightness. It doesn't necessarily have to be from a particular wavelength even hitting your eye. That could just be visible light being bright. So there's two distinctions to be made here. There's a filtered light wavelength that can damage your eye because it's concentrated from the laser. And then there's just bright light. So if you look up at your ceiling light right now, that's 100 or 200 watt worth of lumens, you can absolutely damage your eye from staring at it. Kind of like staring at the sun with sunglasses on. It's still too bright. So,
and that's a really good point too, because there are a lot of, even no IR makes a lot of glasses with very low visible light transmission and very high visible light transmission. So even if I'm watching my fiber laser, if I have a very high VTL or VLT, visible light transmission, that means almost all or a vast majority of the visible light being produced by that reaction is still passing through my glasses, and you can still damage your eyes with brightness. So that's really important. Lower VTL or VTL. I'm thinking of BLT, and then I get hungry.
Volatile light transmission.
Visible light transmission.
Yeah, sorry.
The lower the value means the more protected you are from the visible light, not including the laser radiation. And the higher the value, the easier it is to see. So there's a balance there too.
All right. I know it's off of this, but Bo a while back had asked, how long would a CO2 tube last on the shelf? So like you buy an extra one, how long does it last on the shelf?
Climate controlled? Shielded from UV?
Gotta be climate controlled. Gotta be shielded from UV. We should ask more.
It's metal and
That'd
glass,
be a great
bro.
question.
I would say, like, for all intents and purposes, climate controlled and shielded from UV indefinitely.
Right. But if there's any kind of a slow leak or anything, the tiniest leak.
Humidity.
You're right.
Humidity and UV are going to be your biggest enemies.
Yeah.
If it's stored in a...
Here's a great example. Marco has a gigantic warehouse in his facility, and all of the laser tubes he keeps in offices. He has literally entire office building rooms emptied, just filled with laser tubes, so that they're in the climate controlled.
Are they stored horizontally too?
They're horizontal. Yeah, they're stored horizontally. Yeah.
I saw somebody who had taken it and turned it vertical, and to me that's so scary because it creates what Michael just said, which is the leaks. All it is, those ends are so
fragile.
And they're just they're also rounded, and it's like there's been work done on those pieces.
Yep.
Dude, put those things flat because that's how they're meant to be. Keep them flat.
Yeah, and I see there's a lot of anecdotal answers coming into chat here. I think that a lot of the ranges people give you for tube storage are not based on ideal conditions. They're based on normal use conditions.
Yeah.
So they're not expecting them to be stored in a way that is going to, make them last longer in storage. They're being stored in a way a normal user or a normal owner would store them. And that's where they're getting those figures. So
I'm usually not going to buy a replacement tube until I absolutely need
there's no tube shortage
Someone told me don't buy it until you're going to replace it. Like, you can either be preemptive and say, I'm going to replace it because I know this is the third year of its use and it probably doesn't have much more juice, or, whatever. So, but that's one of the things that someone who I trust told me, which is, why buy it if you're not going to use it? Just
Kyle and I talked a few episodes ago about things that you can and should buy more of.
Belts,
lenses
to stock up on, and
mirrors, lenses, belts,
belts for sure. Holy shit!
Also, Laura asked, not to get sucked back into eye protection, but I wanted to acknowledge
but here we go.
Question: is there any risk to watching laser work in videos? No, not beyond the normal risk of staring at a screen. So unless you're doing it for 2 hours or 12 hours rather a day, 2 inches from the monitor, you should be okay.
Alex. Otherwise, Alex would be blind because his shit's just him editing shit all the time.
All the time. Yeah, I'd be in really, really big trouble.
It's got the same risk as smell-o-vision to making you hungry.
Mm-hmm. And Marco just mentioned
licking the screen.
Flying Monkeys says, is the X-tool enclosure and the protective cover around the D1 laser head enough protection? No. The leaking diode light, especially because it's in the visible spectrum, that's a blue light laser. Turn the lights off in the room. Turn the lights off in the room and run the machine. If you see blue, you're not doing good.
Yeah.
I have a really good pair of glasses that block a very large amount of the diode spectrum. That's typically around 455 nanometers. The DBY from No IR. The DBY block UV, diode, and fiber, all OD6 plus or better. It's a great pair of glasses. I would check those out. And I don't know if I would.
They're fairly passive too, in terms of like being able to see your computer screen and everything around you. They're kind of like would you describe them as like a smoky gray sunglass that's mostly visible?
Those are the YG5s.
Okay.
More fiber based. The DBYs are a little more like orange.
I was thinking of the wrong ones.
Diode protection, but a really good pair that I would check out. Just wear glasses. Just buy glasses and wear them, guys.
Yeah.
What if the moon is in retrograde and my house lands on the surface and I won the lottery yesterday and I drank nothing but water for the last 3 weeks? Then can I take off my safety glasses?
Yes.
No.
Oh wait, no, I was way off. That was the most dad-like thing I've ever heard Alex say. That rant was such a dad rant. It was great.
You can afford a $600 machine, to burn things with fire and concentrated light, you can buy a 200 pair of glasses to protect your eyeballs. It's like, I don't understand people will do anything. They'll do anything.
I'm going to add to that.
The safety glasses. I don't understand it.
Since we're on the safety topic, if you're going to spend $600 on a machine and also buy safety glasses, you should spend $10 on a fire extinguisher at Walmart.
There you go.
Even saw a post in the Facebook page of someone that left it unattended. That burned their whole fucking room in their house down, man.
Oh yeah,
not cool.
Don't do that. You don't leave lasers unattended while in use.
Also, there's another guy who I know over in the Laser Lounge this week, there was a post where one of the frequent, flyers of the Laser Lounge had posted that he had actually put linseed oil when he was finishing something, and he had just left it in the garage. And that's just, I know this is not laser related, but at the same time, same thing, just materials and having a plan for how you're going to use them, dispose of them. If you don't have a drying rack outside or you don't have a metal bucket to toss it in, it's like $30 for a metal bucket that has the fire bucket. So just saying, like, fires, especially when you've got so many jobs going, like I know how that goes. Like my shop looks like a fucking wreck right now. That's why the lights are off.
I'm gonna spam through a couple of quick ones here. Willie Sims says, "Oh wow, I did not know copper can destroy a fiber laser. It's not just copper; it's literally any material is technically able to reflect the wavelength back. It's just a less of a likelihood. Yeah,
right.
It's a numbers game.
Right.
How reflective is brass versus copper? Brass is at least a portion copper, so it is reflective, just less so. Brass, if I recall, is zinc and copper, and bronze is copper and tin, I think. Maybe I have those backwards.
Right. I think
but they're both reflective, just less than copper, but probably more than steel.
A lot more than steel.
Yeah. Is a window necessary for an enclosure? Why not something like a grow tent with a camera jerry-rigged inside? Cameras or window is not necessary. Camera is an excellent choice and probably the preferred choice. Way cheaper. Be careful about.
I'm still lost my voice from screaming about the Pokemon cards. The grow tent is something you want to be careful of. Make sure that the walls and floors are not made of something like PVC that
or vinyl.
Burn and give off like chlorine gas because a laser, I don't know. Just be careful. Just be careful. Make sure it's made out of a good material.
Not just the enclosure, but the actual little tent poles that they give you. Some of those are actually made of straight up PVC. Usually they'll tell you they're fire safe. And usually that's a good indicator that they're probably not made of vinyl and PVC, but you can also check the MSDS on them or ask the manufacturer.
Yeah, just something to be aware of. I know that it's very unlikely that your whole little tent is going to collapse and fall into the laser while it's running and set the whole thing on fire, but just,
Totally.
Be aware. Be aware. Be aware. Did you guys see Flying Monkeys? What wavelength is Superman's laser eyes?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's like gamma, dude. Those are like gamma rays.
I mean, he can X-ray stuff, so that's some hefty stuff right there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with 1090.
I'm going
1090.
like full nuclear, like he's straight up. The X-ray is like light mode, and he can like see through things. And then when he turns it up, the next high energy wave after X-rays,
multi-spectrum,
that's
bro.
gamma.
He's
dude.
in control of all the spectrums.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
Whatever he needs.
No matter what, you don't want to be on the business end of that. So, stay away.
I love these conversations right there. I love that one. That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Humberto asks, speaking of laser tubes, what is the proper way to dispose of them? Definitely not the way Michael and I will be disposing of some laser tubes at LightObject this week. Just throw them away. It's just CO2 gas. You're not going to hurt anything. It's not like filled with mercury or like weird shit.
Yeah, it's not like those shop light tubes, right? Where it's filled with like super poisonous gas and stuff.
Yeah,
Are you not supposed to smash those against the wall?
No, you're not.
Oops.
But the best.
Unless you want to clean up a bunch of gas.
I would get a contractor.
Note the high school
bag,
me.
contractor bag, put it in there, pre-smash it, tie the bag up,
two contractor bags.
smash
double bag it,
and then put it in a second one.
Yeah.
After it's smashed,
Just like you should have smashed that like button.
and then throw it away.
Oh,
Hey. Look at that. Willie Sim just gave me $10 for that amazing joke.
That $10 has been sitting there, and
I know. All right, that's fair. I tried. I reached.
Thank you, Willie.
Thanks, Willie.
Thanks,
And-
Willie.
And thank you, Humberto, for that question. That was a good one.
Oh, God. Okay.
Too much fun. Oh, damn.
All right.
Over an hour and 15. We're killing it.
Mark Garrett's is saying some have radioactive ends, like Resi, for example. I can't confirm or deny that. Sounds like it could be true. Maybe we'll ask Marco about that while we.
You're talking about maybe what the mirror's coated with, or I
don't know.
Lens.
We'll have to ask
Some
Marco.
of the
See if he has any
mirrors.
opinion about that. Maybe we can confirm or deny.
We have a couple things from Marco now.
Yeah, we have a big list, and I'm
Some
going to have to
questions.
re-listen to this
Okay.
to like type them all out.
Walk into that office tomorrow with one of those little radioactive meter things on your belt. When you walk into the little office room that they're in.
Counter, yeah.
Yeah.
They probably have one there.
Hey, if we can find it,
We
we're
can
welcome
use
to
it.
use it.
Yep, that's right.
I want to look at this, by the way. So my California Air Tools started condensing a bunch of water, and it started pushing out onto my workpiece. Hooked it up to my Harbor Freight air dryer, pure dry air now. And what I was saying before I broke up with you guys was that's something, especially if you're in Florida, if you're in a garage, most workshops and like warehouses don't have AC and climate control. So definitely think about that. I'd love to see what system you use for that, or what do you guys take? What's your take on that? How much should you spend?
I mean, you don't have to spend a ton, but if you're going to go with the cheap ones, you could even stick 2 in line with each other.
I've seen that too. A couple $100.
The passive ones.
The Ranger setup that he was using to cut things earlier today. He has 2 in line.
Yeah, he's using air dryers.
Yep.
Yeah, for that reason alone.
Another factor is make sure that you are purging your bleeder valve on the bottom of your tank when you're done with it at the end of the day. Because if you're not, all it's doing is collecting that water from compressing the air down, and it's filling up your tank.
And rusting the inside of your tank.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Over a long period of time, it can do that.
There are two.
On what level of tank you buy.
There's 2 bellies too. There's an aluminum one. So California Air Tools does make an aluminum belly one, and they make a steel belly one. So you got to make sure. So if you didn't know, it costs an extra, I think $50 or $60, but if just for rust purposes.
Yeah.
So you don't want to have a blowout one day. Also, I know, is it on the buying guide, Alex or Kyle? Do you guys know the auto bleed valve?
It's not on the buying guide, at least as of yet.
Okay, because that'd be something else. If you guys don't know what an auto bleed valve is, you can literally set something at night or during the daytime to run an auto bleed where it just drains your system for you. So
that sounds nice. Kyle, I'm assuming you know where that is, and we can maybe get a link to Amanda on that.
I can find one. Yeah,
perfect.
Because I think Kyle and I talked about it one night, like ways to make the system better. Wasn't that us? Pretty sure it was. We're usually up until like 2.
Less maintenance based and more passive, doing it itself based.
Yeah,
or even just flipping a switch.
We'll get something like that added to the buying guide shortly.
We did it every night.
We did it
drained the tank every night.
We took turns.
And then opened the bleed valve.
Yeah, it would piss far.
Sometimes, so depending on the time of the year, it would collect less or more.
Yeah, and seriously, there were days where we would pull the pin on that and let it bleed out, and it would piss 30 feet. It would just go.
Eventually, we just plugged our ears.
100-gallon tank.
Eventually, we just plugged our ears, and I'd be like, "You ready?" He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm ready." About 3, 2, 1, go, and we just boom, and then just walk away and go lock the door and go home.
So, do you want to know how I know that? Number 1, I have a steel bellied compressor, and also number 2, that you should not open it in a garage. Because I'd never had a compressor before, and my brother's like, make sure you bleed that thing, and I'm like, how? And I'm on a FaceTime with him, and he goes, pull that thing right there. And before he could finish his sentence of when you get outside, I was like, here? Spray painted rust water all over my fucking garage. I had to pressure wash the garage to get rid of it. It was awesome.
And Willie Sims is coming in with one. This will be our last question today.
Okay.
He's asking, so a question on the reflection danger. Would it be better to run your jobs off-center so the reflection of light is off-center?
Oh.
Yes, but that's overkill for most materials. Unless you're working on something known to be a reflection danger, like silver, gold, copper, are all going to be really your biggest enemies there. Basically what happens is when you have an object that you're going to mark with a laser, if the laser's coming straight down onto that object, it can bounce off and go straight back up. If your object is over here, the Galvo mirrors are now shooting that at an angle, and there's a lot more ways that photon can bounce other than straight back up into the lens. So it can be helpful. There's always still a chance. It's a crazy world we live in, and physics doesn't make any fucking sense. So be careful, but yeah, that can help. And it's a common aid for that issue. Yeah.
I'm going to mention one more thing. Bob says he hopes we get a chance to check out the fume extractors in reference to you guys, and shoot a vid while you're there on that as well.
Yeah, we looked at, they have a prototype there.
They have an interesting prototype coming up. It's got some really fascinating technology.
Not finished.
Not sure if it's there yet.
It's not finished, but we'll talk about it. We'll definitely show it a little bit. You'll see it. Even if it's just in one of our vlog episodes, you'll get a look at it. But it's huge, and it costs a lot of money.
What's going on, Matt?
It's a prototype.
Just being professional.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's great. If you guys want to hear something funny, don't forget to check out Emergency Stop. You can find it over at emergencystop.net. Michael's been on in a bad way. We need to have like a real.
Yeah,
we have to do like a real thing. It's pretty funny. It's good stuff. Also, I pulled like a super amazing Charizard on my hobby channel, Pokemon Archivist. It was a lot of fun. I like screamed and cried on camera. So if you want to see me scream and cry, you can check that out at the Pokemon Archivist. I don't know. If you like the video, guys, smash the like button. Let everybody else know the content is good. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified the next time we upload an episode of the podcast. What about March?
Merch.
Oh, merch. Boyce, of course, is saying go buy some merch.
I didn't.
I know you don't even got it today, but
Mine's under here.
Michael, plug your
man.
nonsense.
If you haven't heard of Laser Engraving 911 yet, go check out my YouTube channel over at Laser Engraving 911. It just dropped a video on laser engraving anodized aluminum. And there's actually a pretty cool deal for the vendor that I got all the aluminum from. So make sure you check the description in that video as well.
Our channels go really well together because Laser Everything is really technical and like theory, and yours is very much application.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to learn why things work the way they work to take better advantage of your system, Laser Everything is where you want to go. If you want to see how those things are applied in real life, definitely go check out Michael's channel too, because he's got a lot of great content over there. So that'll be a good time. And I think that's just about it. Shout out to our LMA supporters. You guys are the reason we get to continue uploading all of this content for free for everyone. So we have you to thank for that. We appreciate you. If you want to join their ranks, head over to masters.lasereverything.net to find out more. And I think that's all I've got. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya.
See ya.